Sinners is undeniably a personal classic. This title is a mutation of separate ideas. What you are about to see is the Frankenstein of 3 parts labeled by the 3 titles in order of which they came to me. Over the course of 7 days, I just didn't know how or what to focus on regarding Sinners. But it was a must to talk about. It's the talk of the town, and for a couple of days, it was the first post I saw every time I opened up Twitter. My theater was packed, and I honestly can't remember the last time I walked out of a movie that had everybody talking about it. And I saw it again 7 days later, and my theater was still packed. They emoted, they clapped, they laughed all throughout. So the question I have to ask is Sinners overrated? The answer, my friend, is no. I think it is appropriately rated, received, and talked about. If we push aside the fact that social media's timelines were flooded with this movie to the point where maybe you were one post away from saying, you know what? I'm just not gonna watch this movie anymore. And dial in on the overwhelmingly positive sentiment of the posts, that's where we pin the tail on the donkey. You can't watch Sinners and not talk about it. It's that simple. I loved it. I adored it. And that ending, I can die peacefully now.
You twins? Nah, we cousins.
But above all the laughs, fun, greatness, and emotion, I love the heart Ryan Coogler imparted into Sinners. You've probably heard about it if you read up a bit on the movie, but Sinners stems from Ryan Coogler celebrating his uncle. I was 11 years old in this new city. I had my uncle down the street and would go spend time with him because that was one of the few places my mom would let me walk in Richmond was to his house. He would get off work and all he'd want to do is listen to old blues records and drink Old Taylor whiskey. And I would just sit there with my uncle, who was the oldest man I knew, listening to stories about Mississippi and to talk to him about life and baseball. Coogler admitted that for most of his life he thought of the blues as old man music, but that changed after his uncle's death. A morning ritual for me, in a way to ease that feeling of guilt and loss, I would play these blues records, but I would play them with a newfound perspective and I would kind of conjure my uncle. By seeking connection to family and discovering the world they lived through almost 100 years ago, tons of people in the United States have been able to see for themselves what Ryan connected to. And I don't think you need to be African American to find the beauty in it, to relate to connection. His uncle James passed away in 2015 before Creed released. For Sinners, he was able to speak to his grandmother and father-in-law, which I'd like to make a note of. These conversations allowed Ryan Coogler to humanize the elders beyond their age. This is something I think about every now and then. My parents lived a life before me and their parents before them. Soon I'll be the same, and I think, not that this is inherently bad or good, I'm not sure if many efforts are made from the previous generation to emphasize and instill just how human they are as much as the upcoming generation is. They parent so hard that the past life is sort of just gone. I think the preservation and awareness of your humanity and the culture and history you can bring towards your future is something to cherish and uphold. We're all just living right now, and I can assure you, there couldn't have been many people thinking, what if a motion picture was made 100 years from now depicting our lives, our community, our music? I mean, who even dictates what's worth a story or not, you know? But I'll tell you what, because Ryan spent time with his uncle, listened to the ye olde music he loves so much, built a great relationship with that man, the sense of urgency and importance grew. The portal to their relationship is the blues, and through the blues, his story opens up to a world larger than just them two. These are just some interpretations I had after my brain went on a creative emotional high. Sinners is an awesome ode to his uncle. Without his realization to the blues, you could still make Sinners, but it just wouldn't be the same. Like it could have been, this movie is about opening a juke joint, and blues just happened to be a music of the times. And I'm going to agree that blues is an infinitely influential contribution this country has put out. I'll give you a couple reasons as to why. You see those guys right there? They're the Rolling Stones, one of my top 3, maybe my top artists ever. They were in their early 20s when they formed, and founding member Brian Jones, where's that fucker? Right there on the floor, you see that? On the floor. Named the band the Rolling Stones after the Muddy Waters song, Rolling Stone.
He gonna be a Rolling Stone. Sure enough, he's a Rolling Stone.
This is an amazing album. Before the Stones, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards dabbled in a group called the Blues Boys, and some other members played in Blues Incorporated. And mind you, these are British boys, early 20s, maybe late teens when they were in the other groups, inspired by the blues. Who's Muddy Waters? A pioneer of the blues, a singer, a guitarist, born in 1913 in Mississippi. He later electrified the genre, popularizing the Chicago blues in the 1940s. Oh man, I'm a little rusty on recording and I can't remember these lines. Not that I ever was skilled at it. The Stones, along with many others like Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles, were influenced by Bo Diddley. He was also born in Mississippi, but in 1928, and grew up in Chicago. Essentially, it's very Sinners-like. Chicago and Mississippi get name-dropped a lot, and those are pretty much the two main locations. Bo Diddley was a prominent figure of rock and roll, coming from the blues, so that kind of shows you the cultural shift coming from blues to rock and roll to the British invasion to rock and so on and so forth.
What's wrong with you? Oh yeah, you're cracking up.
And I want to mention another man and movie, Elvis. Heavily inspired by black artists, and the movie does a great job of that. You've got Sister Rosetta Tharpe, Big Mama Thornton, B.B. King as a peer, Little Richard as an up-and-comer. I just want to put James Brown's name out there. It's a little bit different, but it's a branch from the same tree. White culture has a lot to thank black culture for, and I just want to put that out there. And yo, I really do want to touch upon the opposing side with the villains and the vampires and their music, folk music. You already know I saved Will Ye Go, Lassie Go.
Time has come, and the trees are sweetly blooming.
The immediate references that came to my head were Peter, Paul, and Mary. And the Carter family. Not that I know too much about them, but enough to slam down a reference here.
And bear, do you miss me and wish I was there?
Which in turn, you can't mention folk music without Bob Dylan, but he's just a rabbit hole. I freaking love older music. Ryan Coogler wrote Smoke and Stack while thinking of his Uncle James' sons, who were Uncle Rod and Uncle Mark to him. Buddy Guy, who plays Sammy at the end, was also James's favorite. Buddy deserved a mention along with the other artists, but I wanted to separate him. Get this, he also moved to Chicago and eventually linked up with Muddy Waters. I'm just finding this out as I write it, and it's also fascinating. You might have heard that Ryan Coogler will have the rights to Sinners after 25 years. Thought this was pretty cool to hear, as a movie studio is a vehicle for production, funds, and marketing, but ultimately, he wrote and directed it, so it should be his, okay? Consider all that I've told you about Ryan's connection to the blues, his family, his journey of discovery, and how much influence of his own life was poured into Sinners. Now tell me that doesn't make his rare ownership rights that much more satisfying. You know, before I saw the movie, I was told that the first half may seem slow. It may drag, but once the ball is rolling, it's on fire. I didn't view it this way, but I understood what was meant on my first watch. Now on my second, not once did that thought enter my mind. There are some movies that, on a rewatch in the theater, I'm anticipating a point, a shift where the ball does get rolling, but if I'm being 100% honest, I sat down for Sinners and all I anticipated was for the scene in the intro where Sammy's in the church to finish so that we could start our day. And that's what? 3 minutes into the runtime maybe? That's how much I love this tale. The tale of rounding up the best people you know, setting up an establishment, and celebrating the night away. Sure, things blow up terribly bad, but I think the bow tie at the end is a great send-off. It didn't hit me right away, but this is one of those movies that take place over the course of one day. Not everyone in Club 𝙎𝙀𝙁𝘾 was related, but the way everyone bonded together and shared the night, you know you created a masterpiece through the sense of community and belonging when you're able to touch upon so many layers over such a short duration of time cinematically. From Sammy's ambition to follow the blues, to escape plantation life, and Smoke and Stack's quest to experience freedom, that their big wads of cash can guarantee they're able to defeat the devil they know. That's where the heart lies. Yes, there are more characters, but our leads and what drives them affect some of the others. Take Annie for example. She's a grounded woman who can speak sense into Smoke, and through their shared heartache of losing a child, she ultimately chooses to have her existence come to an end so that one day they're all reunited. And how about Mary, who tells Stack she didn't want to be white or have a farm with a rich white husband, that all she wanted was him. So can you be too surprised about her fate? Their fates? Choosing to live together forever. The final outbreak is bittersweet and tragic, as Stack is obviously more of the slick-talking, rebellious daredevil, but still loves his brother dearly after being bit. The same way Smoke says the best part about him was Stack. Stack says he won't navigate his newfound freedom without Smoke. You're supposed to dislike the vampires, but if you can remember when Annie was tackled, bit, and notices who did it, she says something along the lines of, "Not you, not you," because it's Stack. So when a wooden stake is driven through her, Mary and Stack freeze in place. She shrieks, he gets her to safety. We are supposed to believe that these people, once bitten, are no longer who we knew. But that scene, when they realize that Annie is truly gone, they are so hurt. And I can kind of sympathize. Stack lets out a quick line of disappointment to his brother for what he does, because using a wooden stake to the vampires is the same degree of pain as a vampire biting to the humans. Annie was taken from one side and immediately taken from the other. That's just another creative tangent, but do you see that degree of family, of wanting to keep everyone alive? You can argue vamp life is not the correct way, but that person is still intact. Stack had all his memory and love for his people. That's some good shit, man. It's tragic and it's beautiful. That maybe Smoke, Stack, Annie, Mary, and possibly Sammy could have shared a variation of freedom in a time where the clan was running rampant and sharecropping was common practice. Even off the screen, the sense of family exists. In this letter Ryan Coogler wrote after the release of Sinners, at the very bottom, he talks about working with Michael B. Jordan for 13 years. It's not a difficult task to have seen all their work together. Creed, Black Panther, a cameo in Wakanda Forever, Sinners. All I'm personally missing is Fruitvale Station, which I didn't know existed till now, and I never realized how awesome this duo works together. He worked with Ludwig Göransson, who entered my radar during the Redbone days and surged back in my brain for Oppenheimer for 17 years, where they met back in college. Who wouldn't kill for a partnership like that, where the both of you are kick-ass and give each other work? And last but not least, his editor Michael Shawver of 15 years. The consistency, reliability, and growing skills of all these guys, director, actor, composer, editor, you don't come across this for every production, and it's very rare for that to happen, but you best believe this work family delivers cinematic justice. Hell yeah, man. Woo! And that adds to the list of why Ryan Coogler should have the rights to Sinners. His crew, his people created the final product. Sinners is an all-time favorite of mine because it hits the big two of what typically makes me love a movie. It makes me feel, it has a great, strong, killer ending. And it checks these two marks off in the highest degree. Sinners was created with passion, awareness, intent, drawn from real life. And of all the movies I've talked about, I don't think I've ever taken in such purpose beyond a production as I've read up on with Sinners. I view it as a celebration of one's culture and memorializing family and everything it stands for. I had to go through a third viewing because this was just one of those videos where I could not for the life of me creatively write flawlessly. My discussion wasn't heavily plot based, but along with everything I mentioned, it's just a great watch. I listened to the score and soundtrack completely at least twice. I'm in absolute love with the rock opera surrounding the vampires. I'll play you guys a snippet. I enjoyed the first act of visiting all your old friends and enlisting them. I thought Slim was going to be annoying as hell as the old drunk, but he turned out to be arguably the funniest character. The Chows added balance as hardworking folks who weren't throwing hilarious obscenities to other characters. And Cornbread is a staple big dude with a smart wife who might be second place funniest. The scene where Remick spawns in, one of the best moments for no reason. I don't know why. I love how that guy landed from seemingly gliding while burnt. Is it just me? This sticks out so much to me. It's so freaking cool. In most groups of mine growing up, I was always one of the youngest, so seeing Smoke and Stack act as big brothers to Sammy was something I could relate to. Not only that, but getting older, I sometimes feel in that position to look out for the younger folk around me. Sinners is 360 degrees of entertainment, and that's that. On the third viewing, I went in the most tired you could say, and if there is one scene I was itching for the most, it was the first post-credits along with the short compilation when Smoke was trying to roll up. They go hand in hand as the compilation shows when everyone showed up to Club Juke and how it was prepped up. As for the post-credits, I can't get their words out of my head. Before the sun went down, it was the best day of my life. Was it the same for you? Without a doubt, it was the last time I saw my brother. The last time I saw the sun, and just for a few hours, we were free. Shown over another compilation of the times. 2 recollections, 1 set of memories given to us from each brother. There's a universe where I talk more about that and express my feelings, but you could read the room by now. Sammy and Stack's last words to each other encompass everything I could say. The bridge to the past, keeping it alive, it all represents what I connect with and cherish, so I call this letter Sinners is undeniably a personal classic. I got emotional every time with that final scene. Sinners is just one of my all-time favorites now. This video should have come out 2 weeks ago, but oh well. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video. And I'm not even going to outro this one. I'm just gonna let it simmer.